Imagine reshaping the landscape of your mind to cultivate emotional abundance. Ryan, what the heck are you talking about? This is a process that will help you to think more positively, find more fulfillment, and to have a more emotionally rich life. Men. This is not a topic we talk about often, but as we are into episode 6 of 7 in this Unstarved Man mini-series, you had to know this one was coming. We need to talk about more than just our emotions, but how to deal with them, how we deal with the ones as they come, how we overcome the challenging ones when we have them, how to deal with past ones, and how to prepare for the future of more that are coming, the good, the bad, and the indifferent. I want to talk today on this specific episode of the podcast about how to transform our mental habits and thought patterns to foster a healthier mind and a healthier heart. Are you ready? Because I am. Thanks you guys so much for listening. This is Ryan James Miller. And as I said, we are in episode 6 of 7 on the Unstarved Man mini-series. This is part of the Greater Unlocking Greatness podcast. And we have been getting great feedback, having tons of fun talking about these things, but also dealing with a lot of challenging topics and ideas. In episode 1, I talked about this hidden hunger for emotionality and the fact that men are emotionally starved. They're not dealing deeply with and expressing their emotions, at least not in the right ways. Episode 2, we talked about society's silence and the fact that societal norms are often hindering men's ability to deal with the emotional and mental challenges and struggles that we are having. Episode 3 in this series, we talked about vulnerability, the importance of it, and the fact that we need to break the emotional starvation cycle that we are all experiencing. Episode 4 talked about the ties that heal and the importance of like-minded, strong male relationships. We need deep friendships with other guys that are similar to us that can help guide us, lead us, hold us accountable, build us up, and support us as we go along. And then last week, episode number 5, I dug deeper into the relationship side of things and talked specifically about communities and the importance of being in community with multiples of like-minded men and where we could find those. Hope you're caught up. Hope you've listened to those episodes. And now I want to dive into episode number 6. And I want to talk about a whole new emotional landscape and what it means to overcome emotional starvation for us as men. Overcoming emotional starvation is really about building emotional resilience. It's about building the resilience, again, to endure and to ultimately overcome the emotional challenges that we are facing on a day in and day out basis. And these range from sadness to happiness, from anger to joy, frustration, anxiety, depression, elation, so many things that we deal with. How do we properly handle each one of these emotions as they come our way? And so that's what I want to talk about today, is how we build the emotional resilience to successfully work through each of these emotions that we feel. How do we process them? How do we deal with them? How do we overcome them? And so that's, again, what I want to be talking about in this episode today. And by the way, this episode ties in so well to everything. I mean, not just because I planned it, but because this is where we're at, right? This is where we're at. We have to address the problem, which is why I initially talked about unmasking emotional starvation. And then I worked through anecdotally some opportunities that we have through relationship, through understanding what society is telling us to do. But now this is the next step in us taking personal responsibility. This is the next step in us understanding how to work through ourselves, to know ourselves better, to deal better with ourselves, and then how to leverage the relationships that I talked about over the last couple of weeks, how to leverage those better to help us ultimately become the men that we have been created to be. Again, as a disclaimer, Ladies, don't check out on me, please. I've had some feedback from a few ladies. As a matter of fact, one just yesterday that was so overwhelmed with gratitude for me addressing this issue, because she is seeing how men in her life are dealing with these things and they don't know where to go. And she was talking about the fact that she wanted to share these episodes with other men that she knew. And so, ladies, you have not only an opportunity, but I believe you actually have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to stand by and support the men in your life, whether that's your husband, whether that's your boyfriend, your parent, your child, an uncle, a nephew, a friend. You can be there. You have to be there. They need your support too. We need your support too. All right. So let's dig in. So a couple things that I want to talk about on this specific episode. So I want to talk about steps to recognizing and addressing personal emotional needs. So again, we need to understand how to recognize the things that we're dealing with and then how to address them. And then I want to talk about techniques for fostering emotional resilience. Because again, we can't just talk about it. We need to talk about how to do it. And then finally, I just want to work through this ongoing journey of emotional self-discovery and improvement. And then finally, I'm going to offer you two incredible resources, one that you've heard of, one that is brand new, one that we have created specifically for our one-to-one clients only. I've only leveraged this resource in one-to-one coaching environments, but I feel like this episode warrants me sharing this publicly for the first time. So stay tuned to the end of this episode, because I guarantee you are going to find extreme value in the resource that I'll be sharing with you at the end. So stay tuned for that. Trust me, this is not a trick. This is going to be something that is going to be extremely beneficial. But I want to explain some of the process along the way in the episode before I just go ahead and give it away. Okay, so, and bear with me because we'll talk through that as well. So let's talk first about recognizing these emotional needs. So you may have heard me talk about this on previous episodes, not just in this series, but throughout my podcasts. If you follow me on Instagram, if you follow me on YouTube, you hear me talk a lot about self-awareness, about emotional intelligence. And one of the things you will often hear me say is most people, and especially guys, for you out there that are high performers, you will typically respond when I would ask the question, how well do you know yourself? How emotionally intelligent are you? What do you think you're going to say? I already know what you're going to say because I hear it all the time. You see that you know yourself really well. You see that you are extremely emotional intelligent. And I just want to tell you that more often than not, you have beer goggles on if that's what you see. Now, you may know what I'm talking about, but there's like a game out there too where you put these goggles on. It totally distorts your vision. You can't see things for what they really are. You lose depth perception. You lose all perspective. Now, I'm not saying you don't know yourself at all. But what I am saying is oftentimes when we believe we are very emotionally intelligent, we are missing deficiencies in ourselves and opportunities to get better. This is an area that we all need to do a much better job in, is getting to know ourselves. You've also heard me say that we lie to ourselves more than anyone else. We tell ourselves we're good at things that we are not, and we tell ourselves that we are terrible at things that we are actually good at, which is why we need good, objective, wise voices from the outside speaking into our lives, so we're not relying completely on ourselves to define ourselves. But again, that said, we do need to understand who we are. We need to understand what makes us tick. We need to understand what frustrates us, what excites us, all of these different things. It is so incredibly important for us to know ourselves. And so you may be saying to yourself, great, Ryan, so how do I do that? How do I become more emotionally intelligent? So I have three things for you. I'm not going to get into deep explanation because I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. I'm going to talk about the last one in a little bit more detail. But the first one is keeping a journal. I haven't been doing this very well as of late, but this is something that is very, very beneficial and something that I highly recommend you do, and something that I try to do more often. Journal about yourself. Write down your thoughts, write down your feelings, write down your experiences. And if you write that, then number 2, you will be able to regularly self-reflect on how you're feeling and how you're thinking every single day. In the moment, it's hard to gain full grasp for what we're thinking or feeling because we're just reacting to or just invested into a moment. But if we write it down and then we can go back later and reflect on what we thought, whether it was real or not, were we overly heightened or sensitive? Did we miss something? Why did we miss something? I was talking to one of my clients today. He's an executive leader in an organization, and he's struggling with his team. And we got to a point in the conversation, and I said, I'll tell you exactly why you're struggling with the team the way that you are. I said, it's because you're afraid to be a certain way with them. And you're afraid to be a certain way with them because of how you were built up and influenced in your career and your life. And he took a minute, and then he was like, oh, yeah, I can see that. But he didn't see that until I brought that to light. And this is a lot of times what happens is when we're deep in a situation, when we're deep in a scenario, whether it's with somebody else or with ourselves, we can't see the truth for what it really is. And sometimes we need somebody else from the outside to be able to look into that. But even if you can write that down and then go back later and assess that situation, that can be really, really helpful. So keeping a journal, again, writing down your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your ideas, just that's super beneficial. And then self-reflecting on that. You can self-reflect at the end of every day. You can go back and self-reflect whether you journal or not. But I feel like journaling is a great way because it will help you to capture a lot more of the moment versus just only reflecting back on high level because so many things have happened throughout the day. The last one, I believe, is exceptionally beneficial as it relates to getting to know ourselves, and that's prayer. So Psalm 139, verses 23 and 24 say this, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Now, not to get too preachy at the moment or deeply theological, but when David is writing this psalm, that's who wrote this psalm, King David, he is not asking God to figure him out. God already knows him. God has him totally figured out. God knew him before he formed him, which is also in Psalm 139. This is David asking of God to search him, to find out if there's anything good or bad in him, so that God can reveal that to David, and David can change his ways, grow, and go forward on the path that God calls him to. When you pray, this is not about revealing something to God that God doesn't already know. This is about speaking to God so then God can turn around and reveal back to you the things that you need to know. More often than not, he does that by pointing you back to his word. As you read scripture, regardless of where you are at, God will show himself to you through scripture, and oftentimes he will show you to you through scripture. It's just fascinating the way God works. Other times he will bring a word to you, premonition to you. He'll give a word to somebody else that will be brought to you. But more often than not, he is going to speak to you through his word. But we pray, we ask of God, God reveals it to us in that way. That's God's answer to us, but it requires us to first pray. So if you want to know more about yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly, my encouragement to you is to cry out to the Lord. Ask him to search you. Ask him to reveal to you the things that you desire to know. And if you don't know, then say, Lord, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, but I am asking you to reveal it to me so I can grow and get better. For some of you, that's a foreign concept because you're not a Christian, or maybe it's because you are a Christian, but that's just not something you've done. You have more of a strategic mind and you start trying to read all the books and listen to the podcasts and do all the things that all the best, most successful people in the world tell you to do in order to know more of yourself. All those things can be helpful. But I'm telling you right now, there is no better person to reveal to you who you are than the person that created you, and that is God himself. Additionally, as we are figuring ourselves out, as we are more and more of ourself is being revealed, because again, this is about self-awareness, right? This is understanding what our emotional needs are. God, show me myself, show me what I need, show me what I struggle with, show me how I need to be fulfilled. As we're doing all that, one of the other ways to address those needs, so we're going to journal, we're going to reflect, we're going to pray. And then one of the great things that we can do is we can take those things to others, to a trusted friend, to a mentor, to a coach, maybe to a counselor, or to an entire community like I do to my Wednesday morning men's group a lot. Share your needs, share your struggles, share the things you're learning about yourself, and have other people, first of all, ask you questions and then pour into you the things that need to be poured into you. So those are some ways that you can begin to understand and address the emotional needs that you have as you're feeling these things and not sure what to do with them. Because that's, again, a lot of what I've been talking about over the last 5 episodes is the fact that we as men feel these things, but we're not sure sometimes what they are, where they're coming from, or how to deal with them. And so this way, you can start to gain a better understanding for what you're feeling and what you're needing. And then you can go engage episodes 4 and 5 with individuals as well as communities of people that will help you to process through the things you're seeing and feeling so you can grow in them and or overcome them. All right. Techniques for fostering emotional resilience. So again, resilience is us building in ourselves the ability to endure as challenges come, to work through the moments in our life that we struggle with. I don't have to tell you how to be more successful. Most of you listening already know how to do that. I don't have to show you the 7 ways to be better in the areas that you are already great in. What I'm trying to help you do is to remove one of the greatest barriers and or work through one of the greatest barriers to us all. And that's ourselves. We are getting in our own way. As one of my favorite rock bands of all time, Lit says, I am my own worst enemy. Dun, 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 dun. No, I'm not going to get into all that now. But it's true. We are getting on our own way. And men, you high performers, the anxiety you feel, the depression you feel, the lack of a will to go get yourself into physical shape, the stress you're feeling between you and your family, the lack of friendships you have, more often than not, it is the result of this emotional starvation. And the more that you deal with the negative and challenging emotions and thoughts, mental well-being, the more that you start to see those symptoms arise around anxiety, depression, fractured friendships and relationships, stress, lack of sleep, lack of a will to work out, all these things. So you need to figure out how to deal with them. How do you deal with those things so you can go be more successful like you want to be, like you know how to be? Well, one of the ways that I encourage my clients to do that is through a process called cognitive behavioral reframing. And it's this practical approach that helps us deal with the current challenges that we're facing in our life. All of these psychological, physiological, sometimes emotional, relational challenges that we face. And it works in 2 main areas. One on the cognitive, right? That's the thought, and the other is on the behavioral. That's the actions. And so that's why cognitive, behavioral. It's addressing both sides of this to help you become more resilient. To not just. By the way, this is a problem that I just want to speak to you real quick. Most of you guys will fly through these things by the seat of your pants. You will just bulldoze your way. You'll put your head down and run through the wall. Somebody has told you that you should be more gritty and grind it out. And I'm telling you right now, it's breaking you down. This is not about just making it. This is about being successful in working through these things. This is about being the best at accessing your mental and emotional resilience and succeeding through the challenges that you're facing. The goal of this cognitive behavioral reframing is to help you recognize and adjust any negative thought patterns and behaviors that come your way and to replace them with more positive and realistic ones. So one tool that we have shared is called identifying and challenging negative thoughts. I've talked about it over and over again in this podcast series. You can download it down in the show notes. But a cognitive behavioral reframing involves a little bit more detail than that even. And again, this is typically something I just work one-to-one with my clients with, but this is something that we're going to be sharing with you really soon. When we can take negative thoughts and replace them with positive ones, but positive and realistic ones, there's too much talk in today's day and age about manifestation. I am going to tell you right now, you cannot bring something to existence that does not exist. Only God can do that. You cannot bring positivity to light that doesn't exist. You can't fake it until you make it. You can't pretend your way into happiness. The reality of the matter is things in life suck. But there are ways to look to truth, positive truth, to help you overcome the suck. The pain may still be there, but there are ways to engage the positive, the truthful positive, in order to succeed. As you do this, you will improve your well-being, and it is going to give you much better tools to manage the challenges that you face every single day. Because as a business leader, as a husband, as a man in society today, as hopefully an aspiring or an actual leader in your community, as a man in church, you are bearing a lot of weight. There are a lot of things coming your way, and you need to understand how to manage life's challenges well, because there are challenges in every single one of the roles you face, and you cannot just fly by the seat of your pants. This is why so many of you feel so miserable, and you try to mask it by just being more successful. You try to mask it by self-medication, or you just try to pretend it away. You can't do, and like none of those things are going to work in the long term. It will destroy you. I have seen it firsthand in my own life, and I've seen it firsthand in many other people that I'm very, very close to, clients and friends. Please don't just try and shove this one off. Work hard in this area. 2 Corinthians 10:5, the Apostle Paul says to take every thought captive. I personally believe that we are in a spiritual war. And when those negative thoughts come into your head that tell you that you can't do it, that you're not good enough, that you suck, that the things that you did in your past will never be erased, that you just aren't worthy, those are lies from the pit of hell. Those are attacks from the enemy. And Paul's saying in 1 Corinthians 10 to take those thoughts captive. How do we do that? We do that by reframing them and speaking the words of God over our own life, that Christ died for us, that we have an eternal inheritance with him in heaven, that he sees us as beautiful. It's a weird word to be called as a man, unless you're some sexy cover model or something like that. But it's true. God sees you in a whole different light. We need to take those negative thoughts captive and see us as God sees us, see ourselves as God sees us by using the truth of his word. We're not making words up. We're just going to his word. We're crying out to him in prayer, and we're asking him to reveal to us the truth of how he sees us. We're going to our family and friends, and we're asking them to share with us the good that they see in us. That doesn't mean that we don't have shortcomings. Doesn't mean that we don't have failures that we need to overcome. That doesn't mean that we don't have weaknesses that we don't need to shore up. But at the end of the day, cognitive behavioral reframing is about learning to tell ourselves the truth, the good truth, the way God would tell us the truth. To, yes, turn from the things that we are in sin in, but at the same time, to see the goodness of who he has created us to be. To see the opportunity in the situation. As you and I look back, on all of the struggles of my life, and many of you have read my book. Thank you so much for that. Wounds, How Hurt, Heartache, and Tragedy Become the Keys to Unlocking Greatness. I share over and over again that in each one of those 9 seasons of life that produced deep scars and devastating wounds, I was able to look back on every single one of those situations and not only see God's hand in it, but being able to say that I am better because of it. Every single one of them, whether I did it or somebody else did it to me. That doesn't mean that I'm happy with the situation. That doesn't mean that I wish that it didn't happen. But the fact that it happened means that I can't erase it. And so I need to see it as God would want me to see it, which is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to get better, to improve my situation, and to improve the situations and the lives of the people around me. That's how we ultimately, cognitively, behaviorally reframe, is by speaking the truth. And again, we can do that in reflection. So let's work to build that type of resilience so we can do that in the moment. So the moments of negative challenge do not cripple us. Because that's what's happening. That's what's debilitating you. That's what's preventing you from being the man that God has created you to be, from achieving the greatness that he has in store for you. Look, your greatness and my greatness are going to look very different. My greatness and Elon Musk's greatness are going to look very, very different. Greatness is different for everyone. Our callings are different. Our purposes are different. But there is greatness inside every single one of us, and it is being stifled because we have been overwhelmed with the deprivation of our emotion. We don't know how to deal with all these struggles, and so we try to squash them. We try to fight our way out of them, and it's crushing you, and it is crushing me. And I will not stand for it in my own life, and I will do everything that I can to advocate for you not standing for it in yours either. You want to build more emotional resilience? Pray. You want to build more emotional resilience? Meditate on the word of God. You want to build more emotional resilience? Be around like-minded men that are also fighting to build emotional resilience. You and I, too often, we are looking to the person that's miles and miles ahead of us, hoping that we can glean something from their experience. And we can. But I would far rather journey with somebody that is in the same realm that I am, that they're fighting the battles, that they're seeking to overcome and build the same types of resilience that I am. It is encouraging to see other people in the trenches with us, even if their trench looks a little bit different than ours does. Seek out community, seek out like-minded male friendships. These things will help you to build the resilience necessary to be the great men that God has created you to be. And finally, just to touch on this as I land the plane here, this journey for emotional self-discovery and improvement is lifelong. This is not a one and done endeavor. This is why for many of you, you had this figured out at one point in your life and you're stuck again. You're struggling again. You're frustrated again. And I know this too well. There have been seasons of my life. I share in the intro to my book that in 2019, I had a massive anxiety attack, debilitating anxiety attack. Well, that was 18 to 20 months removed from Route 91. I thought I had overcome that. I thought I had moved past that. I thought I had grown so much. And in all reality, I found myself back in the same position I was. incapable of doing anything in the moment, frozen, literally numb, emotionally, spiritually, physically. I couldn't get up off the floor. And as I reflected back on that season of life, I had gotten too far ahead of myself and thought I had it nailed. I forgot that this is a lifelong journey to build and maintain emotional resilience. Lifelong. We must continue to fight for emotional growth and self-discovery. Please, I am pleading with you. Don't give up on this. Don't forget this. As you seek out continued success in your life in whatever domain you're looking for success in, never forget that emotional resilience is a necessity to achieving and sustaining it. I can't tell you how hard it is for me to see so many men struggling in this area. Because on one hand, it's black and white simple. But I know how incredibly difficult this is because I have struggled with it too. I wish I could just say, just go learn the cognitive behavioral reframing techniques and you'll endure it all. You'll get over it all. Just go pray every time you struggle and you'll feel so much better. And the reality of the matter is that's not reality. It's just not that easy, which is why we need to have multiple weapons available to us so we can fight this battle from all sides. My encouragement to you would be to set a goal for your own emotional development. Do you even know what that goal would look like? If you don't, my encouragement would be to reach out to me. You can DM me on any one of the social platforms, or you can email ryan@ryanjamesmiller.com. And I would be more than happy to provide some specific ideas for you. I'll ask a couple questions back and forth, some specific ideas for you on how you can set realistic goals for emotional development and how to track that progress. But here are a couple of simple things you can take away. Just a couple of ideas. I didn't really prep for these. I should have, but here are a couple of simple ways that you can begin to set goals around emotional development and how to track its progress. Okay. So I would think about the top 2 or 3 things that frustrate you the most in your life. What are the 2 or 3 things that frustrate you the most in your life? And the goal would be to no longer be frustrated by them. And you may be saying to yourself, Ryan, you are nuts. If you knew what I was frustrated with, there's no way that I can not be frustrated by that thing or that person or that circumstance. And I would challenge you first by saying, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe you can actually get to a place where you become so resilient, not agnostic to it, but you become so resilient to the situation that it no longer bothers you in the way that it did. And as a matter of fact, maybe you can become so resilient to the situation that you can turn it into a positive. Identify 2 to 3 things that frustrate you the most and set a goal for them to no longer frustrate you. And then start journaling, reflecting, and even praying on how to grow through that and see what is revealed to you. So that would be one big goal you could set for yourself, but that will take small incremental steps. And here is the best part. If you aim for perfection, right? That would be no longer being frustrated by the situation. If you aim for perfection and you miss, you get excellence. Worst case scenario, you get something better than the situation you're in right now. Why wouldn't you want that? I think that's a fantastic goal to set for yourself. If you want something more than that, hit me up. I'd be more than happy to help you out. I would love to know how you feel about this topic, this episode. Do you believe you are self-aware? Do you believe you have a significant amount of emotional resilience? And if not, why? I would love feedback. Again, DM me on social. You can email ryan@ryanjamesmiller.com. I would just love to hear back from you how you're feeling as it relates to this topic and this area of your life. So I told you, if you've skipped ahead, you've gotten this already, but one more tool. So we have created a guide called Challenging Our Thought Patterns, Cognitive Behavioral Reframing. And it is going to be our gift to you for listening to this episode. That is a guide that we have created to help you with cognitive behavioral reframing techniques. And so go ahead down to the show notes. You can click that. You can grab that for yourself. We'd be more than happy to share that with you. And hopefully that will help you on your way to building the emotional resilience necessary to overcome emotional starvation. This is episode 6 of 7 in this 7-part Unstarved Man podcast series. I am so grateful for those of you that have supported the series, that have supported the podcast, that have liked this, that have shared it. Please, on Spotify, on YouTube, like this episode and subscribe. And even share a review if you can on your favorite podcasting platform. Those things help this podcast to get shown to more people, complete strangers that those platforms say, oh, such and such liked it. Maybe this type of person would like it as well. So I would appreciate you sharing that. That is a gift that you can give to me as a way to just continue to promote this episode. I want to remind you, emotional growth is a journey, right? Lifelong journey. But I believe with God's help, we can reshape the emotional landscape of our lives for a far more abundant life and one that is filled with greatness. Thank you so much for listening. Episode 7 coming up next. You guys are amazing. Now go be the men and women that God has created you to be. Thank you, guys.